This is Ambazonia Calling. News, analysis, commentary, opinion, editorials. Ambazonia Calling is a co-production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. Welcome. My name is Ntumfoyn Herbert, and I bring revolutionary greetings from our studios in Washington, D.C. to all of you, friends of Ambazonia and fellow Ambazonians on Ground Zero and across the globe.
The U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Tibor Nagy, is currently on his way for a working visit to Cameroon amid fake diplomatic row in which Yaoundé is pretending to have a muscle that it can flex. I am innocent here.
On the 11th of March, Monday the 11th of March 2019, all roads lead to London. Westminster Abbey, come and be part of this history. My name is Paulette Bonsiru. I'm also known as Mama Ambazonia of the UK.
We have Petros Haile. He's kind of inside the kitchen of everything that happened in Eritrea and Ethiopia leading up to the independence of Eritrea.
Ambazonians must sit down and address the question, what leadership model best serves the liberation struggle? This is Lambert Mbom.
Ambazonians who have become hand-clapping worshippers of anyone who claims to be in authority should be ashamed of themselves. This is C. Ajimbo Ambe.
We are connected with the leaders of Ambazonia discussing the upcoming conference now scheduled for the weekend of the 29th to the 30th of March. Working on this conference, we've got Comrade Sako, John Akuru, Elvis Kometar, Ebenezer Akwanga. Speaking on behalf of Maurice and Ntumfoyn Herbert here.
Criminals masquerading as men of God are either running a revolution for you Ambazonians or are getting ready to Judas Iscariot or to Fonchamuna you to the Republic. This is Manjong Jut Ambe.
Hello and welcome again. We've got a lot to get through in this edition, but there's no better place and no better way to start than to thank you again for spending a part of your Sunday with us. You will be richly rewarded. You can never go wrong with Ambazonia Calling on Sunday morning. World Women's Day was celebrated this week across the world, everywhere else except in Ambazonia, where our women sat it out. Bravo to our women. Lambert Mbom dedicates his editorial this week to women, pointing out that men at the helm of the Ambazonian struggle have been a mess, and it may be time to pick one of the many competent women to run this revolution. Here's Lambert Mbom.
One would be remiss if we fail to celebrate the many women of this liberation struggle who continue keeping on in spite of themselves. Ambazonians, maybe it is time to consider elevating our women to prominent roles of leadership. In designating March 2nd to March 8, 1980 as National Women's History Week, President Jimmy Carter said, and I quote, "From the first settlers who came to our shores, from the first American Indian families who befriended them, men and women have worked together to build this nation. Too often, the women were unsung and sometimes their contributions were unnoticed. But the achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and love of the women who built America was as vital as that of the men whose names we know so well." End of quote. Ambazonians must not wait till we get to Boya before we start celebrating these women and erecting statues for them. We cannot continue making the same mistakes and hope for better days. We must begin the change now. One thing we can and should do is not just to get the women as the dressing on the cake, but more importantly, consider them in top leadership positions. ARC, for example, has had 2 executive directors, both women of substance, and have been the calming force amongst the men of Morisk, AGC, SCYL, Republic of Ambazonia, constituent groups of that collaborative platform. Ambazonians, let's try something different and halt the train wreck our revolution is careening into. A revolutionary council made up of all the groups with designated tasks and serving as a collaborative platform with checks and balances in place, with a woman as commander-in-chief of this platform, may be what saves this revolution. There are just too many talented women we cannot afford to continue to allow to play second fiddle because of our macho egos. May the blood of the many women savagely killed by the bloodthirsty brutes of the colonial Republic of Cameroon be sown for the liberation of Ambazonia. This is Lambert Mbom for Ambazonia Calling.
What Cameroon has done to us, I want you never to forget. The pain they have brought to bear on this generation, I want you never to forget. Not out of hate, but so that the next generation will remember and make sure they do the things they are supposed to do, never to go through this again.
I will continue to play my part to ask the people of Southern Cameroon to take their revolution into their hands and continue the fight to liberate themselves.
I'm sorry to say, because of France's policies in Africa, in French Africa, the state of La République du Cameroon do not have any pressure on them to find a way to resolve this issue, because they are always thinking that no matter what happens, France will always be there to give them coverage.
Still ahead in this edition, we have The Devil Unmasked with Professor Emmanuel Tatamenta. We have a winner of the Nyamfaka of the Week. And we are not done until you have heard our letter to Joshua. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and enjoy Ambazonia Calling. The man who serves up our weekly news wrap-up is here. Innocent Chair has got the first part of a news roundup for the week.
Ambazonia Calling is still waiting for our sources to authenticate persistent reports that Brigadier General Valerie Nka may have been killed Saturday in the latest round of fire exchange between the terrorist genocidal forces of colonial Cameroon and the defenders of Ambazonia. According to our sources, the incident occurred late in the day in Badibo. Credible sources in Noni are reporting the shooting death of 7 Ambazonians by Biya genocidal forces in Dom village, Bui State. According to these sources, La République du Cameroon military surrounded the village even before the crack of dawn, long before the first cock crowed, surprising even the early birds who were setting out at 5:30 a.m. Sources credit Amber Boys for a timely intervention, without which the marauding forces of La République du Cameroon would certainly have killed many more villagers. It would be recalled that the widely shared audio on pro-independence WhatsApp forums forewarned Thursday of a leaked plan on the attacks.
We get credible information say some meeting bidewe La République and the forces Bishidon map out all camps for Ambazonia. All the Amber boy them make una know say they get map for place where all camp in day.
Meantime, as many as 6 Ambazonian defenders were shot and killed Friday in an exchange in which they were outgunned and overpowered by Biak genocidal forces in Kar.
My name na Capo Daniel. This one is my daily podcast for una. Sad news don't come. Say massacre devil Cushing for BOYO County.
Unconfirmed reports are holding out against hope for villagers in Saf, Nkonene, and Cushing in BOYO State.
They don't keep people born house for Cushing So they enter for South, burn all houses, they burn all people there for inside house. The number of dead they not still be yet known.
Sources allege that hired thugs of Alhaji Ndampulo of Ndawara, the anti-Ambazonian pro-CPDM business mogul, worked together with Cameroon's military to decimate the entire population, including even cattle.
7 gendarmes can join them. They enter for inside coaching. Then finish people them for they not spare mother, children, baby, old people. Then kill them. The news is worrying. The massacre is too much to bear. Even Bororo people ready to stay for the area that are run the camp down side for Boaboa.
Many suspect that as in Esu, Alhaji Ndawara is trying to obtain more grazer land around Sa, Konene, and Kushin, where he has previously attempted to chase the rightful owners out of their piece of real estate.
Ndawara don't always try for buy land for farmers and for inside Kushin. We no be there for buy them. They don't use this problem for Amba boy them. Making key all farmers them for take land by force.
Another general of Ambazonian revolution has died. General Dan, aka Pasteur, famously accused of colluding with General Divine in the gruesome attack and killing of 18 Sokade fighters in FAKO, has been killed. Pasteur was fighting along the ASC forces of the IG group. Sources with inside knowledge say he may have qualified alongside General Divine for war crimes. You are listening to Ambazonia Calling, your space for educated news analysis, informed opinions and commentary towards the recognition of a free, independent Ambazonia. I am Innocent Chia. Stay with us.
Innocent isn't going anywhere because he's got the second part of our news wrap-up for the week.
The U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Tibor Nagy, is currently on his way for a working visit to Cameroon amid a fake diplomatic role in which Yaoundé is pretending to have a muscle that it can flex.
So many fundamental problems have gone unaddressed, and we see this now in the northwest, southwest, or what some people call the Anglophone region of Cameroon. In addition, Cameroon has two very serious problems. One is in the north with Boko Haram, ISIS, West Africa. And in that part of it, we are working very closely with the Cameroonians as allies to address the problem of terrorism. The more fundamental problem, and in my view, the more existential problem for Cameroon is what's going on in the Anglophone region. The government has been totally, in my view, ineffective in addressing that. Some of their actions have actually worsened what is going on there.
In the lead-up to the trip to Yaoundé, the top U.S. diplomat who oversees American policies vis-à-vis Africa expressed concerns over Biya's longevity in power and capability to handle the Ambazonian crisis. Cameroon's Minister of Communications issued a statement Thursday decrying what it considered an overreach by America into Cameroon's business.
There's been just a mounting cycle of violence from both sides. The radicals in the Northwest, the ones who call themselves the Ambo boys, and then the security forces. We've had horrendous loss of life, casualties. I think October, November, December of last year were the three highest. Now it's somewhat decreased. The great majority of the casualties are those on the Anglophone side. The Cameroon government is just not being proactive in addressing this problem.
And will you be meeting with President Biya?
I certainly hope so. We have asked that. Of course, it's up to the Cameroonian government as to who I meet with.
And will you be asking for the release of Maurice Kamto, the presidential candidate?
I will. I will. I think that would be a very positive gesture. There are a number of, I think, gestures the Cameroon government could do immediately, which would start to diffuse the problem. But at the end of the day, it's going to require dialogue, open dialogue, no conditions dialogue to get to the heart of the problems.
The very latest edition of the Missions Tribune, a consequential American publication out of West Virginia, has again highlighted the Ambazonian quest for independence. The front page story by Hans Herzog focuses on the footwork done by the Ambazonian Recognition and Collaborative Council, ARC, to keep the story on the front burner of the 116th U.S. Congress and for the U.S. to help implement the April 21st, 1961 decision of the United Nations in which the U.S. joined 63 other nations to vote for the independence of Southern Cameroons. Women across Ambazonia sat out the 2019 International Day of the Woman amid strident calls for a total boycott. Meantime, in the neighboring colonial state of La République du Cameroon, calls for boycott were largely successful, even as some CPDM diehards wore bullet vests at the Friday march past. Finally, the high-level Ambazonia Recognition and Collaborative Council delegation that traveled to Africa last week has returned to the United States after what the ARC chairperson, Catherine Fomangum, described as a very successful mission. The delegation met some key power players that will be speaking up for Ambazonia in the days ahead. Innocent Chia, Ambazonia Calling.
On the 11th of March, Monday the 11th of March 2019, all roads lead to London. Westminster Abbey, come and be part of this history. My name is Paulette Bonsiru. I'm also known as Mama Ambazonia of the UK. Come and let's stand as one family in the United Kingdom and tell His Majesty's government that we deserve a place to call home. Somewhere in Ambazonia, a child is facing a rifle. A child is being killed. A brother is being killed. Somewhere in Ambazonia, they are in the forest. They don't have what to eat. I can smell our independence. It's right here. Just one day, this 11th of March might be the day to finally seal this history. Just that last hurdle, Ambazonians. Ambazonians. We have it. It's in our hands. Come and be part of this history. The world should hear us.
Restoration train is going to the mountains. Restoration train is going to Bamenda. Restoration train is going on to BOYO on the restoration journey of our liberty. Restoration train is moving very steadily. Restoration train is hooting very loudly. Restoration train to carry everybody on the restoration journey of our liberty.
The 1964 Cairo Declaration on African Borders, reaffirmed in Article 4B of the Constitutive Act of the African Union, however, and signed off by the President of Cameroon, makes clear that demarcation of the territory of each African state is recognized as being such on the date of its independence. Does the United Kingdom government accept this to be the case, or not? Has there been subsequent declarations that nullify these issues on borders? If not, it would follow that French Cameroon and Ambazonia are both able to assert territorial integrity. At no time before or after its independence from France was the southern Cameroons part of that country known by its French name and style as La République du Cameroun.
So, restoration train is Ambazonian train. Whoa. Restoration, restoration train. Whoa. Restoration, restoration train. Whoa. Restoration, restoration, restoration train is going to the borders.
Ambazonians fight each other about who is right, about which strategies to use, which organization to belong to. As many as we are one, argues Barrister C. Ajimvambe.
On the wall behind the altar in my church in Silver Spring, Maryland, USA hangs a large piece of artwork with the inscription, "Though many, we are one body." This artwork has never meant more to me than now during these very troubling days of the Ambazonia Revolution. Even when I have been unable to attend Sunday service, the words of the artwork speak to me, reminding me not only of the oneness of children of God, but also, I dare say, the oneness of the people of Ambazonia. The message of this artwork seeks to unite the Church of Christ through the same cooperation, partnership, tolerance, and collaboration that Ambazonians need in their march to BOYO. We have no choice. Our people are indeed dying. Sadly, and in order to avoid working with others, many Ambazonians label fellow citizens unpatriotic, traitors, agents of the colonizer. It is the convenient pretext that so many have found to justify questionable conduct, refusal to answer tough questions, or face the truth. We need to stop. Ambazonians who have become hand-clapping worshippers of anyone who claims to be in authority should be ashamed of themselves. They are not any better than the very CPDM fanatics they condemn if they see no evil in leadership and hasten instead to send them motions of support. They are no different from the oppressors of colonial Cameroon if they resent and go to great lengths to stifle the voice of anyone who exercises their freedom of expression to question leadership or unveil lies. We will not always agree with the premise, principle, or even philosophy of others. However, we can acknowledge and appreciate their efforts. We can appreciate their sacrifice, hard work, as well as their availability and willingness to serve. Whatever we have done well can be done better. No matter how much one has tried, criticism provides a chance to improve and learn from errors. Remember that it is by shutting its ears and responding only with threats and violence that colonial Cameroon has failed to hear what the people of Ambazonia have been asking for, hence the inferno in which it finds itself today. No Ambazonian should lash out manipulatively, vindictively, or hypocritically at others under pretext of feeling greater pain as a result of the massive and senseless deaths that have befallen us. All Ambazonians, real Ambazonians, are in exactly the same state of despair. Immediate corrective action is what we need. There is no waiting until we get to BOYO. Issues that threaten to topple this revolution, such as alleged mismanagement of funds, excesses of power, exclusionism, obstruction, fraud, and dishonesty, must be addressed promptly and thoroughly, lest they constitute an even bigger obstacle than the colonizer. This is C. Ajimbo Ambe for Ambazonia Calling.
Welcome to our special interview segment, The Devil Unmasked, The Truth Out. The Devil Unmasked is hosted this week by Tempo Afrique TV. It is located in the Twin Cities in St. Paul, in the great state of Minnesota. The monk from Ibali Kumato, Vadzekov himself, is the anchor for this segment.
We have Petros Haile. He's kind of inside the kitchen of everything that happened in Eritrea and Ethiopia leading up to the independence of Eritrea. Welcome.
Thank you.
Who is Petros?
I am Eritrean, born and raised in Ethiopia till I was 15 or 16. Okay. Then I left Ethiopia during the turbulent times, commonly known as the Red Terror era. Then I went to Eritrea for a few months. Then I left to Sudan as a refugee. I spent over a year. And from there to Italy, from Italy to Minnesota. I've been here for the last almost 35 plus years.
We would like to unmask some of the little known aspects as well as similarities between the Eritrea-Ethiopia war and the now pro-independence struggle of what we call Ambazonia. Tell us, what do you see as similarities between what Eritrea was going through with Ethiopia and what Ambazonia is going through now with the government of Franco Cameroon?
To begin with, the commonality is they both a problem or supposedly solution created by the United Nations. In the Eritrean case, it was during the Second World War. Once the Second World War was over, the British defeated the Italians in that part of the region. Then they actually, from 1950 to 1940s, the British are the ones who administer Eritrea. So those are the days where the United Nations was interested on Eritrea, and it's commonly known as the disposal of Eritrea, meaning the three Italian colonies in that region, which is Libya, Eritrea, and Somalia. Somalia and Libya were granted their independence, but Eritrea left behind because the monarch in Ethiopia claims, because of historical and ethnic connection, and actually that is a cover, but the main reason is they wanted to have access to a sea.
Ethiopians and Eritreans are very close. Let's say they are like brothers and sisters. Cameroon has the same argument about Ambazonia. Is considering a neighboring people brothers and sisters enough to force them to live in the same country?
The thing is, we have to go back to the Berlin Conference. The colonialist intention to occupy or to partition Africa was strictly on the basis of economic resource. So they did not consider ethnicity, religion, or what have you. As a result of that, if you really look at the African as a continent and the colonial subjects, lack of a better term, they were not divided on the basis of ethnic harmony or the same ethnic group in one place. In one country alone, take Ethiopia for example, you find the Somalis in Ethiopia, they call them Somali Ethiopians. You find Afars from Djibouti as well as in Ethiopia, including Eritrea, the Oromos in Kenya and Ethiopia. So that country cannot declare this ethnic group belongs to me. The same in Cameroon. The Ambazonia, you might find them in Nigeria.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with identifying with your neighbor as brothers and sisters. But culturally, psychologically, in terms of sovereignty, you belong to another nation.
What, in your opinion, forced Eritreans to turn to arms?
Because of the disappointment, because of the UN negligence. There's many factors, but the main one is once they have that treaty or agreement on a federation between Ethiopia and Eritrea, although even the federation itself was not fair and balanced, but some Eritreans accepted it as a compromise, I believe. So even that federation that lasted between 1952 to 1961 has been violated by the Emperor of Ethiopia many times. And
similar situation in Ambazonia.
In Ambazonia, yeah. That is strikingly similar with Eritrea. And from my understanding is the federation was not the first choice for the Ambazonian people.
No.
The UN resolution was for independence.
Yes.
But that same day, it has been converted into a federation. Yeah, but you still accepted it as a functional proposal.
Yeah.
For the same in Eritrea. The reason is since that federation from 1952 to 61, in between, there was lots of violation was going on, including the language issue, like the Eritrean language. Those were being replaced by the official Ethiopian language. And I believe the same thing in French, British, Those were the ones, and at the end, Haile Selassie, was the king, the monarch, incorporated Eritrea as one of the 14 provinces.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that same thing happened. Ambazonia was brought into the Cameroons, and then after a while, they broke up Ambazonia into 2 provinces.
Oh, they
Just exactly what you're saying.
Yep, they did that, and all that sovereignty granted by the United Nations was revoked.
Yeah.
And that is, although the Eritrean delegates came to New York and complained about what was going on, but at that time, the U.S. was on the side of Ethiopia. But the U.S., they had this wait-and-see attitude, you know, who was going to take over. Yeah. And the United Nations was pretty much dominated by were influenced by those big powers.
Yeah.
And they just ignored Eritrean demand. So when the emperor, on the final day, when he cut the ribbon and incorporated Eritrea, and all that peaceful peaceful resistance could not take them anywhere. So that's why they started the armed struggle.
War is dirty, it's bloody, it's tragic. Nobody should actually look for war. Do you have some advice to give, like the government of Cameroon, which is, it has its big army and it's like just shooting down on people, some of them who have no guns, nothing. It's continuously killing Ambazonians. Do you have some advice for that government? Because they're behaving exactly like the government of Ethiopia.
Well, if you're pursuing a just cause, no matter what you do to those people, they will not compromise. You know, this is a cause that rightfully the entire Eritrean population were galvanized and realized that this is my cause. You know,
right.
We have been unfairly treated by Ethiopians or international community and what have you. So that is the motivating factor for every Eritrean in a way to be unified against the tyrants.
Right.
At that time, the monarchy, you can call it the military dictatorship. So in that sense, yeah, Eritreans were determined, you know, to regain their dignity and to gain their sovereignty. No matter what. And it was clear-cut violation. I'm sure Ambazonia, from the little that I read, is similar.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that there's oil in southern Cameroon, right?
Yeah.
And one of the reason for the monarch of Ethiopia wanted to claim, you know, historical ethnic is just a secondary issue. Main one was access to a sea. At that time, the U.S. was also in favor of Ethiopia because of the Cold War era strategy. They got this, I believe, Radio Marina or a base for the U.S. was granted by the monarchy, Haile Selassie himself. As exchange for that favor, you know, they just ignored the violation that has been going on in Eritrea for many years.
You mean the U.S. had a
base, actually?
Oh, a military base?
Military base, yeah.
In Ethiopia?
They call it Radio Communication Center in Eritrea.
Oh, in Eritrea.
In Eritrea, yeah. I think by the coast, and they also have a branch in the capital city. They call it Kanyo Station.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is as a result of the Second World War.
Yeah.
That came to the picture.
Wow, that's interesting. It's interesting that you mentioned the zeal of the Eritrean people because they saw injustice.
Yeah.
What was the main role of the Eritrean diaspora in fighting the war against Ethiopia?
First of all, they all believed in it. The violation was clear-cut, as I mentioned it to you earlier, and international community ignored it. So you have to rely on your own people, primarily, from inside as well as in diaspora. Ethiopia, with all its numerical superiority, just like you said, you know, armaments and all that stuff, and those things can actually make you more determined to gain your dignity back.
Yeah.
So Eritreans in diaspora, and the fact that Eritrea, relatively speaking, before the annexation of Eritrea with Ethiopia, relatively speaking, was a little more democratic. The civic groups were a little more developed. We had labor unions. We had relatively free press due to Italian colonialism, and after the Italian colonialism were defeated, the British opened the system a little bit wider. In comparison to Ethiopia, where the monarch was the ruler of the day. When you're a monarch, you tend to be more repressive, and democratic rights were not there. This composition produced a lot of open-minded Eritreans, intellectuals, who can advocate on behalf of Eritrea.
Ambazonians who believe that they are fighting a just cause, do we have to be apprehensive about being called terrorists?
They will call you all kinds of names. If the U.S. is an ally of Ethiopia, the Eritreans are automatically a secessionist. Or to give them a worse name, you call them a terrorist. But at the end of the day, the U.S. policy by itself, they see the reality on the ground. When the Eritreans were occupying more lands and were near to defeating the enemy, then the alliance switch. You're no more terrorist. You're no more secessionist. You're a liberation movement fighter. That switch always happens. So those labels are there, but that does not describe you.
So it took the African Union how long to recognize that the Eritrean fight was a just one? It took them, let's measure it in the number of people killed. 150,000 Eritreans lost their lives before this thing was stopped.
According to the 1963 African Union resolution, they were saying that the existing colonial countries would be considered. On Eritrean case, they were just silent. They did not say anything about that.
The African Union.
The African Union, yeah. And the host was the emperor. Obviously, there was no transparency, democratic procedures at that time. They're not going to talk about the Ambazonia. They're not going to talk about the Eritrean liberation movements, because on their own country, they have issues that they were suppressing ethnic or tribal movements or initiatives. So in that sense, I can see that the African Union was a little behind of their time. I don't know, I'm not qualified to give advice to Ambazonia, but if I have to...
You have experience.
If I have to, Eritrea can that is actually a wrong example. I was going to say Eritrea could be example, speak on behalf of
Ambazonia.
Yeah, but
please.
We have our own tyrants. So
yes.
So I'm not going to go there.
Were there like different groups and factions within the Eritrean liberation movements that were either working together or working maybe against each other?
There's a civil war in Eritrea among the liberation movements.
Oh.
Yeah. In fact, by some accounts, some Eritreans will say Eritrean independence would have been realized in 1975. But imagine, from 75 it took another 15 years to actually declare it. And I would say, because of the differences between different factions, most of the time they were fighting each other. So it weakens the movement. It weakens the nationalist movement. There were some elements, they call them unity for association with Ethiopia. There's a political party. And there's Eritreans who wanted strongly independence. And actually at one time they created a bloc, they called them independent bloc. So there was a rift between those two. And the monarchy used the one that says that promotes unity with association with Ethiopia. I supported them and encouraged them. And once those unity with Ethiopia realized the sinister motive of the monarch, they distanced themselves. In fact, one of them who started the Eritrean liberation movement, they used to call them ELM, that then transformed into Eritrean liberation movement, ELF. There was two factions, Eritrean Liberation Front and Eritrean People's Liberation Front. They had their conflict within each other.
Was there a situation where one of the movements just declare themselves as government?
By default, yes. Like
Oh.
I believe in 1980, the Eritrean Liberation, People's Liberation Movement, front, decided that the country cannot hold more than one group. So they got rid of the other one. They chased them away. All of them, practically all of them, went to Sudan. From that day on, it was dominated by one political party. That is probably one of the reasons, since there's no check and balance,
Yeah.
to perspective. After independence, the legacy was dictatorship. Yeah, dictatorship. So, yeah, we can talk about it later on if you want.
Wow. So, wow, that's interesting.
But for Ambazonia, your question, you have a solid case, a solid case. Maybe you guys can design your own strategy and learn from Eritrea.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I also wanted to talk about what happened after independence.
Yes.
That Cameroonian must really pay attention,
Yes.
especially the Ambazonia.
Yes.
When you conduct a liberation movement, it has to have a democratic nature into it. I would say, yeah, those transparencies, those democratic procedures, rule of law has to be in place in Ambazonia. When you start dominating the scene, and when you think that you're an invincible, so Eritrea after 30 years of war, but after independence, what we see is another dictatorship. In fact, it often is compared to the North Korea type of dictatorship. There's no single independent media in Eritrea. In fact, 15 of the journalists were in jail since 1917. Again, nobody knew where they are. Eritrea is the highest refugee producer per capita. About 5,000 refugees leave their country on a monthly basis. Not to mention that they were subjected to indefinite national service. Some of them served the country for 15 years. I just want to highlight those things. So it's good, like maybe tomorrow morning when Ambazonia became independent, you may deal with the Republic of the French-speaking. You may make peace, but when you do that peace, it should not be symbolic, it should not be for the consumption of the outside world.
Thank you so much. My last question will just be a request.
Okay.
So are you willing to start up mobilization among Ethiopians and Eritreans in the U.S. to support Ambazonia's independence?
I think the Ambazonian question, from a little I read, is a self-determination issue. They deserve the self-determination. I personally, me and the producer Malik, will have guests from Ambazonia to this TV station. And that within that limited ability, we can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And any delegates that you have in town, speakers, this is your platform.
Thank you so very, very much.
No problem.
It's a beautiful day for Ambazonia. Ambazonians need that. Talking with you today and learning a little bit about Eritrean struggle, it's giving me some hope. How do you think we can stop this killing?
It's so difficult. It takes two to tango. If the resistance is peaceful, but the other side is not willing to come halfway, the killing will not stop. The Cameroonian government, as far as, again, as little that I know, Paul Biya has been in power for almost 36 years as a president. Prior to that, he was a prime minister.
You know more than
Prior to that, he was a secretary. So since 1968, the man was there in power, one way or the other, and 36 years as a president. And you don't expect much concession from a person like him.
Thank you so much for being with us today. And Mr. Petros Haile, especially, thank you.
Thank you.
And behind the scenes, we know Malik is there, the engineer, everything engineer, making all of this possible. Thank you so very much. And please come back to this channel.
This thing will go on for 50 and 100 years. You cannot kill everybody. And even if you kill everybody, the stones would avenge for the blood that spills on them. The soil will get up and start fighting.
You have plenty of show yet to come, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
The people of West Cameroon cannot be your slaves. The people of West Cameroon are not, you did not conquer them in war. The problem we have in West Cameroon is the problem that will bring down Cameroon. When people have had pent-up anger and pain, humiliation, for over 50 years, when it bursts out, you will never be able to control it.
They will sooner realize that the people of Ambazonia will not surrender. They will sooner realize that you can arrest and kill, but the more you arrest and kill, the more you energize the people's spirit.
We are connected with the leaders of Ambazonia, discussing the upcoming conference, now scheduled for the weekend of the 29th to the 30th of March, a one-week postponement that is going to help make sure that delegates from ground zero can make it into Washington, D.C. Working on this conference, we've got Comrade Sako, we've got Comrade John Akuru, Comrade Elvis Kometar, Comrade Ebenezer Akwanga from APLM is involved. Obviously, we are the start group. We are expanding this immediately to other groups. We're inviting our brothers and sisters to join in to be part of this conference. It's a major event where we are pulling our people together. Let me go to my comrades here, one after the other. Let me start with the whole organization, SCNC. Elvis Kometar, please, a word about this conference.
Well, we know what's going on back home in southern Cameroon, the bloodshed. So we are calling on all our brothers and sisters to come out so that we meet and make sure that we talk like one person, like one people, one voice, and that's the only way that will make sure that we'll see that we get to BOYO faster. So we're encouraging everybody to come out and see, and we know that this time the people will come out and will not let the people down again.
From the oldest organization to the youngest one, the consortium, John Akuru.
Well, I'd like to tell the people of Southern Cameroon that this will be another very important defining moment in our struggle. And we believe that as Southern Cameroonians, we should begin to talk among ourselves. We should be able to settle down together, tell the rest of the world how we think that sustainable solution can be reached in the current conflict, which pits us to the annexationist La République du Cameroon. I want to encourage all those who understand the pertinence of this meeting, and I believe everybody should, to rush quickly to Eventbrite and register online with a fee of $50. The reason is simple. We don't want anyone to finance our conference for us. We don't want anyone to influence us with their money. We want to be the ones to finance our own conference, and so that we sit together, we talk freely, we talk frankly, and we put our axes together and ensure that for once, even after this conference, we should be able to set up a system that enables us to work once more as the brothers and sisters that we are to deliver freedom to our people the fastest possible.
Comrade Akwanga of the APLM.
Yes, the African People's Liberation Movement will be part of the All Southern Cameroons Conference, which will be holding at Washington, D.C. between March the 29th and the 30th. And the APLM is calling upon every Southern Cameroonian to make it a day in this conference. Please join us and become part and parcel of shaping the history of your homeland. It's taking too long that our people have not been able to sit together, to talk together, to hug together, and to chart a better way. This is the moment. The APLM will be moving in members of the movement from the Republic, the People's Republic of China, the Republic of South Africa, the Republic of Ghana. Some of our representatives from East Africa and also from homeland will be coming over for this conference. We also want to take this opportunity to thank our convener, our brother, our comrade, Fontaine Neba, who raised up the idea of this conference to us, and we were able to sit, deliberate, and have a buy-in. It is a very important event. Please, if you have not yet registered, go online and register and become part and parcel of this wonderful occasion. inform other Southern Cameroonians who are not yet aware to become part of it. This is the People's Conference. It's organized by the people. It's organized by every group, every movement, every Southern Cameroonian. And that is why we have to have a buy-in into it. Organized by ourselves, deliberations by ourselves, resolutions by ourselves for the good of our homeland. I look forward to meeting each one of you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaking on behalf of Maurice and Ntumfoyn Herbert here, just to tell our people that we have gone through a very difficult time with our people dying on the ground, with our people facing the dictator, living in the lion's den. It is time for us to look beyond all this sabotage of each other, beyond a period of time when, conferences are set up and they are taken down by others who do not want to attend. This is a conference for all Southern Cameroonians, for all Ambazonians, recognizing that some of our brothers and sisters do have a minority position, recognizing that they can have a voice, they can speak freely in our land, but they can also be protected as a minority. We are going to be inclusive, but we're not going to be compromising on the goal that our people seek, which is dignity, which is self-rule, which is a restoration of our independence, which is a right that is given to all peoples under domination by another people. So come join us, all of you who believe in Ambazonia, all of you who believe in freedom. This is the conference that's calling your name. Please join us. Let me turn it over now to Comrade Sako Ikome.
Thank you very much. This is Ambazonia. Despite all the noise on social media, we have been a people with a focus. We, the people of Ambazonia, and especially the leadership of this movement, we have been meeting behind the curtains, and we have been trying to chart a way forward and encourage this very needed unity, especially at this time when the enemy has decided to wipe us out as a people. We all face the same threat. And unity is most desired when the threat is a common threat. And there's nobody that is spared. At this time, we need unity more than ever before. And so this initiative by our comrade and brother, Dr. Fontaine Diba, is very much welcome. We have welcomed it, and we own it so that we can come together as the people of Ambazonia from ground zero, from all the 5 continents, so that we can, as from the leadership to the people, we can take clear positions as we prepare to face the international community. So I want to encourage you to make it a date. Make sure you are prepared and you are there. This moment will not repeat itself in history. We know now are we closer to the end than when we started. So this is the time for us to close our ranks, work together as one, chart the way forward, and speak with the same language as we prepare to meet our adversaries in the very near future. Thank you.
Restoration, restoration, restoration train is going to the borders.
Ntumfoyn.
Restoration train is going straight to Kumba.
And to Kumbo.
Restoration train is going on to Bali.
And to Mamfe.
Restoration train is going to Victoria.
And to whom?
Restoration train is going to Muyuka.
And to Ekok.
We don't do foolish, but when there are capital fools out there, we make it our duty to find them, and every week we crown one of them the Nyamfuka of the week. Veronique Vetumfe is on another continent, traveling at this moment, and her recording back to us was distorted for God alone knows what reason, which leaves me with the responsibility of delivering Nyamfuka. The third place finisher was put on the spot during the Philadelphia APNC by soul-searching questions from an Ambazonian activist. The lady activist wanted to know where the Restoration Council had disappeared to while rot took root and prevailed within the financial management of the IG group, as testified by the leaked audit report that Ambazonians were embarrassed to receive copies of last week. The task of making sure that the IG group functioned properly fell to the chairperson of the Restoration Council, who happens to double as the chair for the SCNC in North America. The council, hitherto dismembered, moribund, dead, and buried, suddenly acted like it had come out of resurrection from a prolonged coma in Philadelphia. For sleeping on the job, the chair of the Restoration Council, Elvis Cometa, is this week's winner of the bronze medal and therefore the third place finisher for the Crown of Shame, the Nyamfuka of the Week.
Nyamfuka them all.
Two activists took their foolishness on the road this week, dishing it out on social media. The first of the activists called for the burning down of the homes of anyone in Ambazonia who supports federalism, while the second simply made death threats against any Ambazonian who supports federalism. By putting out threats of violence, by putting out threats to kill or to burn down places, the only thing these activists did, and we cannot dignify them by naming them, the only thing they did was give a pretext for the La République forces to burn down places, kill people, and try and put it on our people. For acting so foolishly, these activists are the runners-up for the Crown of Shame, the Nyamfuka of the Week.
Nyamfuka them all.
Running away with the Crown of Shame this week is someone who was for the IG group before he was against it. The fellow was happy to serve even as the interim leader of the IG group before FAKO was appointed. As the leaked audit report has shown, some of his bills were paid by funds from the IG group, at which point he never complained. Barrister Harmony Bobga lent his voice to the failed APNC coup attempt from Philadelphia on the FAKO-led IG group, for choosing to see the crimes of the IG group only when it was no longer paying some of his bills, and for forgetting so soon how he himself, lawyer Bobga, fought tooth and nail to stay in power against precisely the same kind of coup that was trying to take him off as the leader of lawyers back in Cameroon. Barrister Harmony Bobga is this week's undisputed winner of the Crown of Shame, the Nyamfuka of the Week.
Them all.
Today is the first Sunday of Lent, and one of the big reminders about that came in the form of a letter from jail, from Deacon Wilfred Tasang in jail, reminding Ambazonians about the duty of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving during this season of the church. Innocent here has been reading through the letter.
As Christians the world over mark the season of Lent, mimicking the time Jesus spent in the wilderness, resisting temptation from Satan and preparing to begin his ministry, Wilfred Tasang is appealing to Ambazonians and from his prison room at the Kondangi Principal in Yaoundé to humble themselves and be united in purpose. In style almost identical to Paul the Apostle writing from jail to encourage one of several churches visited on his missionary trips, Wilfred Tasang writes, "Peace from he who is the first and the last. Accept fraternal greetings from the leadership in chains and be encouraged by that which our God has done. I write to commend you all for the prayers and holy hands continually lifted to heaven on our account. Beloved, know that our hope for the liberation of the homeland has not waned. Rather, daily, we give thanks to God who has counted us worthy to carry this little cross on behalf of generations to come. Because the Lord has strengthened us, we also are encouraged to speak hope to you, calling for perseverance even to the death. The Lord of Heaven's armies calls us to humility. In our humiliation is victory guaranteed. This Lent season, therefore, nation Ambazonia is called upon to fast with all desperation, seeking God's face for unity amongst the free leadership of the struggle. After this, that is, unity, nothing they set out to do shall be impossible for them. In the name of Jesus, our Lord, who already died for the casting away of Ambazonia's yokes, in his name do I call you to join the church and all people of goodwill in seeking God's favor. This season we deny ourselves, so that God, who sees our afflictions and transgressions, may have mercy on us, humble the forwarding leadership of the struggle he ordained, unite them and give voice to them that he has raised to speak out on our behalf, even from the four corners of the earth. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the sweet fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you. Amen. From Prison Principal Kondangi have I with my own hand signed Deacon Tasang Wilfred. End quote. The letter from Wilfred Tasang, one of 10 Ambazonian leaders abducted last January 2018 at the Nera Hotel in Nigeria by La République du Cameroon and locked up. The letter comes less than a week after the leaders had penned a nationalistic letter committing anew to the struggle. Innocentia for Ambazonia Calling.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Because you have your army of occupation out in West Cameroon, you believe that when the people will rise, even if you took the whole of the French army and added to yours, you will never bring them down.
And I call on all Cameroon soldiers to lay down their arms within Ambazonia and to turn their arms against the very system that has made them slaves in the land of their birth.
For more stories from around the world, go to the World Wide Web at themissionstribune.com, compassfreepress.com, and africafreedomnetwork.com.
Here is our letter to Joshua.
Dear Joshua, Uncle Sam has sent an envoy to visit with officials of your administration. They are checking out on Hitler Bartholomew Popol Bimvondo. The last time you received an envoy from Foggy Bottom was just before the presidential selection you held last October, and the envoy delivered what your regime considered a very vexing message. Remember? Uncle Sam's ambassador in Angola had the audacity to tell Grand Katika of Angola to consider following in the footsteps of George Washington, and they were asking you to step down. They advised the provided a sound, Joshua, except for people like you, of course, who have decided that their only legacy is going to be that of an election thief when it comes to democracy, the legacy of a chop broke pot when it comes to wasteful spending, and the legacy of an Ali Baba and 40 thieves when it comes to robbing the public treasury. Uncle Sam also recommended then that you should put an end to the targeted killing of Ambazonians. You frowned then because you don't know anything about targeting and you don't understand why the gringos were accusing you of that. And I understand. What you really mean is that your troops are not guilty of targeted killings, and everyone should understand, because the only form of killing that your troops practice is indiscriminate killing, indiscriminate spraying. You call it liquidating. Ever since then, Uncle Sam has done more. Washington has issued 3 resolutions in Congress rebuking you and your regime. There was a statement demanding that you release the results of the last presidential selection, polling station by polling station. Can you imagine? That's as if they were working for Professor Kamto. And now, ahead of his trip to Angola, the Assistant Secretary of State Thibault went on TV to announce to the world that your government was failing in its duty to address the existential war in Ambazonia. I was tickled to see that your government managed to find some words with which to respond to the accusations. You even managed to pretend that there would be a diplomatic row between you and the United States. I mean, frankly, who cares? Do you think Uncle Sam gives a hoot what you think or what you do? I mean, you can keep what Jean-Michel Cancan used to call vos petits mots de Yaoundé là. You can keep them for yourself, or you could run them by the ruler of the Gaullist Republic and the colonial emperor of the CFA Franc zone. Look, Joshua, and please do not let anyone know that I told you this. Washington does not want to call you a war criminal. No, not yet. Not while we are still putting together all the evidence. You know, we tried this already with Gbagbo and they ended up in the wrong side. So they want to make sure this time that everything is put together properly. You know this better than I do. Unlike the bread and sardine approach of arresting and jailing citizens even before charges are brought against them, Uncle Sam gives criminals like a long rope, long enough for them to commit suicide on it if it pricks their fancy. Your consolation has to be the fact that Uncle Sam is not doing this to you alone. I mean, look at what is happening to Obama's job chair. Investigations have so traumatized him to the point that when anyone says anything to him, his first answer is almost invariably going to be two words: no collusion. Good morning, sir. No collusion. No collusion. Like someone I know, you and your entire family are neck deep in the scandals of Angola. No way to arrest Papa without also arresting the spouse and the adult children. If I were you, I would report Uncle Sam to your grandson and son-in-law, Manu Macron. After all, everything you have ever stolen while in power, every murder or assassination, execution or massacre, or now the ongoing genocide, everything that your regime has carried out has been in strict compliance with instructions coming to you directly from the Champs-Élysées. The same instructions that juvenile Habyarimana received and followed, and in the end facilitated the Rwanda genocide, without knowing that the Gaullist Republic had a special rocket selected and set aside meant to take him down and take him out, just shooting down his aircraft as it approaches landing at Kigali Airport. Joshua, one question. When are you next touching down on that plane? I mean, I don't want to be asking for the secret of the gods here, but it could help with what they want to do. I cannot ask you to be careful because what will be, Joshua. Everything that goes up must come down. And you, Joshua, you are going down. And Uncle Sam is just giving you a helping hand. You should be grateful. You should be so grateful. You have been listening to Ambazonia Calling. We came to you from our studios here in Washington, D.C. Our producers today, Jeff McCoy, Logistics, Joe Costa, and Krista Cunningham. Our music is from Ken Wanaku, the monk, from Balikumato Fazekov himself, from William Ford, an Amber music star of blessed memory, from Eric Matisse on the web at soundimage.org, and from Prince Ajua Alem of Ajam, Sonicatron, USA. Ambazonia Calling is a joint production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. You can find us on the web at missionstribune.com, at compassfreepress.com, and at africafreedomnetwork.com. Next Sunday is another date. Until then, keep the spirit, keep the faith, keep up the good fight for justice and independence for Ambazonia. Stay Amba strong.